Alright, today we're doing something actually insane. We're diving into the hardest challenge in Super Smash Bros. History. All-Star mode on Intense. One life, no continues, and we've got to try to take down every single character in the game in one run. If we die, back to the beginning. And after 13 brutal, rage-including failures, this is our final shot, the last run. Can we finally pull it off, or are we just setting ourselves up for pain again? Let's find out. So first off, we had to face against Mr. Game & Watch, which was very easy as you could see. But then it was time for the Mario characters. We first had to fight against Luigi and Peach, which was pretty easy by just thunderbolting around. Luigi was easily gone. And when Bowser spawned, I threw this Pokeball with Snorlax, and those two immediately got killed by Snorlax. That was so funny. And Mario was easily dealt with some Thunderbolts, so far it was so easy. But don't be fooled, because as you can see right now, there's so many characters up ahead that we have to kill, and we only have so much healing, which is really limited, and we cannot die once, and our HP, as you can see, will go to the next match, so it's more difficult than you would expect, definitely. After that, it was a 2v2 against Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. My friend Usopp was immediately giving them a ton of damage, and I could just launch Diddy Kong off the side. And believe it or not, but yet another Snorlax killed a character. It's actually insane. The Snorlax clutch. Up next was Ice Climbers, which we comboed easily since it was a 2v1 again. I just Thunderbolt after we give it some hits, and she just flew in the air and we won. Next up, we just had to bully Rob just to win. It was very easy. But then came a big challenge again because we had to fight the Zelda franchise. But it was actually quite easy since they were on the side and my Thunderbolt instantly killed Ganondorf and Link. Luckily, my friend Usopp found the timer and immediately activated it. And I threw the bomb on Toon Link since he couldn't move towards me anyways. And just let him explode. And he was easily dead. And Zelda only needed one Thunderbolt to completely wave away from existence. Samus, Pit, and Snake were also just single characters which were easily dealt with since we're with two players. Of course they gave us some damage, but other than that, they weren't that big of an issue to deal with. But then it was time for Lucas and Ness, and I gotta say, this stage is kinda hell, and that's simply because there's so much space, which means that we have to give them a lot of damage before we can finally launch them in the air, which means that they can also have a lot of time to damage us, which is very bad, because if we go into the next match, we take the damage with us, so we were kind of forced to heal if we would win this match. And for some reason, as you can see, Ness and Lucas both missed their recovery and just fell down and we won. Actually insane. Martha and Ike were surprisingly easy. They tried to hit us, but we had just too much util to make sure they would stay away from us. So that was actually a nice W, and it was very nice that we could keep our health with us for the next match. So props to Martha and Ike. And after that, Yoshi gave us way more damage than we wanted because of his stupid rolling egg. But after I made him small, it was actually quite easy to knock him into the air and secure a victory again. After that, we had to fight Captain Falcon. We kept hitting him off the stage, but unfortunately he just kept knocking up, which was so annoying. He gave us some damage, but most of the time we just knock him away in the air or to the sides, and we actually won quite easily. And Sonic was actually quite dangerous because he had so much speed, so we were very scared that he could do quite a lot of damage. Since Brawl's fighters are usually very slow, we dealt a ton of damage. He also did a lot of damage to us, so we had to look out that we weren't getting knocked away, because if that happened, we would have just lost. But Usopp secured a victory by knocking him into the air. Then it was time for the Kirby franchise, and that was actually so scary because we had the most busted character in the game, Meta Knight, who is just insanely broken in this game, which was very scary. And other than that, we also had a King Dedede, which is a heavy character, which means that we can barely knock him into the air, and he deals a lot of damage, so that was kind of scary. But since Meta Knight and Kirby are both very lightweight characters, one Thunderbolt again and they're gone. It's actually insane how OP Pikachu's Thunderbolt is, but I love it. But now we really had to look out because our percentages were really going up. He could easily with one hit knock us out of the stage, so we really had to look out. But we kept comboing him, and you guessed it, one Thunderbolt again and he's gone. Star Fox characters were actually quite interesting because we were already at quite high percentages, and Fox, Falco, and Wolf are definitely not bad characters. They're pretty strong, but luckily we had this Weavile who kept knocking them down, so that was so overpowered. As you can see, I fucked Wolf away, which was pretty huge, and Usopp took care of Fox. Now it was only down to Falco. And this item kept falling off the stage, which was so annoying. I really wanted to snipe him the entire time, but every time I just needed a third item, it would just fall off the map. But we didn't really need it because we knocked him in the air, but it was definitely very scary. Up was Wario, and I easily just killed him with his hammer, which was pretty huge. It was very fire. And what is that face? Don't ask me. Okay, so Pokemon was quite tricky because they didn't have 4 characters as you see in the left top. They actually had 6 characters, and that's because we have Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard, and they each have their own life, so that was pretty scary. I already killed Jigglypuff at 39% by just a Thunderbolt. This was so busted. And I took care of Charizard with another one. We just kept battling Squirtle and Lucario, and it was actually going pretty fine. And then I finally had the 3 items, and I missed. Yeah, that was pretty sad. But then I sniped Lucario with yet another Thunderbolt. Maybe I used him too much, but I don't care. You know, it works. And Squirtle was taken down, up to the last 2 characters. Pikachu and Ivysaur. Ivysaur took a mushroom, which was actually pretty nice because I kept just hitting him constantly and he couldn't get up the stage anymore, which was pretty nice. He easily died. And then we only had to kill my clone. And even though Usopp had his final smash, it didn't really matter because I hit him in the air already and he was already dead. And lastly, Olimar. I don't know why there are 2 Olimars because Ulf is not in this game, but for some reason they did 2 Olimars, which was pretty funny, but nothing too scary. I already defeated one and I thunderbolted the other into our victory, which was perfect, finally. This recording took 3 hours and it may look very easy because it was our last run, but I promise you it was not easy. It really was not. Like, we kept dying on the most shitty ways possible. But look at that beautiful trophy. It actually looks sick with the final smash in the middle. I really loved it. And that was it. The final run. After all the fails and all the chaos, we actually made it. And even though it may have looked like that it was easy, as you can see right now, it wasn't. I wish it was. It took us 3 hours to record. But I really enjoyed making the video, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And if you enjoyed the run as well, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts down in the comments. I would love to read it all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.